Hi, and as promised, with me is Bruce Wolf. Bruce, how are you, sir?
Very good. Good to be with you.
I was surprised when you accepted my invitation to talk.
So was I.
And also so excited because I followed your career since you broke in, and I've always found you to be one of the most entertaining broadcasters in Chicago. Really great stuff, man.
Thank you so much. You're not that old, though. You can't be.
I am 62 years old.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
That's
so I've
getting
been
there.
around a while.
Okay.
And followed your career throughout all your radio
You
and
have to
TV days.
remember that, when Hawk Harrelson would refer to Karl Yastrzemski and everybody made fun of him, I was just upset that he was referring to the youngster Yastrzemski on the Red Sox when he should have been referring to a guy like Bill Mambuquette, who hit the White Sox in '62. So to me, Hawk was like the youngster.
That's funny. And a lot of people don't know that you, prior to your sports broadcasting career, and even now, you're a practicing attorney, right?
Right, I come full circle, and it shows how life is just one endless groove going round and round and round. So I'll probably be a sportscaster again. When I'm 85 or something.
And so many people also may not be aware that you created one of the funniest, most recognized characters in radio broadcast history. I mean, Chet Chit Chat.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Fibber, McGee, and Molly. So,
so I want to, for all those young bloods who are turning into the show, I want to play a clip of you doing Chet Chit Chat on the old Steve and Gary show, and we could talk about it on the other end. Here it goes.
I'm to death. I want to tell you, the Olympics, and the big question, is Carl Lewis going to get the copper of the Wheatie box he so richly deserves? I'll tell you, there is really nothing quite as exciting as those track events. Around and around they go on the track. Wow, like human slot car racing. Man, it is so boring. I mean, maybe if you're lucky, once in a while a stray javelin from the field events will puncture the lung of a long-distance runner. And there was nothing quite so delicious as seeing Mary Decker Slaney trip over Zola Butt and then pout over it. Yeah, blame Zola Butt. Why don't you just admit it, Mary, that you lost your concentration because running around a track several gazillion times is boring. Maybe this you'll wear a Walkman or something. Could you imagine all these Olympic runners with Walkman, or should they be Walkmans? I mean, the plural of Walkman, a brand name, would not be Walkman any more than Bruce Wolf's family name would be, the Wolves. It's the Wolves.
That is just
boy, am I funny. It helps that Steve Dahl was laughing through that. It's a great laugh track.
Yes, and I probably have listened to that 4 times today, and each time I'm just cracking up.
Well, you have to listen to it so many times. It's like reading Shakespeare or something.
Exactly. How did that character come to life? How did Chet Chit Chat come into reality?
What happened was I was on WXRT, and I was doing the sports on WXRT. And actually, I mean, it's a kind of a complicated story, but right before I became a lawyer, the morning newscaster, Marge Halprin, I guess, who I still know, was having a baby. So I said, "Can I do the news?" So they said, "Yeah, you can do the news." But then the news guy would toss to the sports. So I thought it would be kind of masturbatory for me to toss to myself. And so I said, I'll toss to this character. And I had been working on the character a while because I'd heard Chuck Swirsky on with Steve and Gary, and they used to make fun of him all the time. And I thought, I can do that. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the first time I did it, I mean, it's like being at 33 1/3 RPM compared to the 78 that I wound up doing it at. Not to date myself although those vinyl records are coming back, right? So
that's right.
That's how I created it.
You talk about just a brilliant creation, and a lot of people say that it was a takeoff on Chet Coppock.
Right off the top, there is no admission charge, but you've got this guarantee as well. The guests are going to be uptown. The conversation is going to be lively. This is where you want to camp out.
It was It was somewhat on Chet, and Chet embraced it because he wanted it to be about him. So I said, fine. And it was a lot. I mean, Chet would go like old number 47 and with Johnny Morris. And I'd go,
Mhm.
so I just turned it into good old number 47. And then everybody was just a number because I'd reduced, as you see right behind you, it's good old number 50, Dick Butkus. I
That's
just
right.
reduced all these players to meat, to their numbers. And as a matter of fact, I think even to this day, Tom Thayer does not like to be referred to as good old number 57. He knows that I'm dissing him. So,
That's great. Did you ever get any heat for some of the humor that, and this is a loaded question, right?
the only heat I ever took is, there's this old adage, tragedy plus time equals comedy. And I kind of
Mm-hmm.
accelerated it. It was like tragedy plus 0 equals comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And so the only heat I ever took was when I'd make fun of somebody who died like right then and there and didn't
Mm-hmm.
wait. But
Mm-hmm.
I thought the Overton window, as it were, for that was very small. So, things like, I remember Greg Salk at the Loop getting upset with me because I made fun of Fahey Flynn. That's how many years ago
Oh
this
my
was.
goodness.
I made fun of Fahey Flynn when he died because I said that Harold Washington the mayor was quoted as saying that Fahey was such a gentleman. He never bothered you with questions and things. And I said, yeah, because he wasn't a journalist.
This is an Eyewitness News Brief. Now here's Fahey Flynn.
John Gacy's mother came to Cook County Criminal Court. She testified that Gacy's father beat his son with a razor strap.
That's why. So, and Greg Salk, who was probably about 22 then, and I was probably 30, said, hey, what are you doing? So we were just, as Jimmy DeCastro once said, it was high school with money. Now it's like high school with no money radios.
Well, and nowadays, of course, everything has been heightened with political correction and cancel culture and so
Right.
forth. To do some of the things that you did, it would be so scrutinized now. I mean, we do a podcast here on Tuesday nights, Dan Aguirre and myself, we do a podcast, and it's a lot of adult humor and so forth. And a lot of times things are just coming out of my mouth and I'm saying, oh boy, is that going to be...
Do you have any financial interests that could be threatened by doing this or what?
Yeah. My wife says so, yes, but I say I don't care, honey.
No, you do have to be careful.
Yeah.
I one time on Channel 5 when I was sportscaster there, and I loved working at Channel 5. To me, it was like such a big thrill to be where Floyd Kelber had been, and I loved everybody that I worked with at Channel 5 too. But one time on Channel 5, I mean, this is way wise-assier than anything Gian Greco would do or whatever. But it was at the time that Vinny Del Negro was
Both coach.
going to be considered to be the coach of the Bulls.
Okay.
And the rap against him was that he didn't have any head coaching experience. And this was in 2008. And I said on the air, what's the big deal? We're going to have a head coach who has no head executive experience. We're about to elect a president who has no executive experience. And I got a computer top line right then and there from the news director saying, hey, watch it, Obama. And I immediately shot back because I anticipated this kind of, I said,
Right.
Hey, McCain doesn't have any executive experience either. But I get it, I understand, and I won't do it because all they cared about was Obama. They didn't care about McCain. Okay? So that's what you had to be careful about. So, but I mean, imagine, there's a sportscaster on a local yokel TV station shouldn't be making political comparisons like that. They don't do that. Although I think, I've noticed things like there's this woman who does the news on Channel 32 in the morning right now, Anita Padilla.
Yeah.
And I know Anita from my days at Channel 5. I think our paths crossed very shortly there, but then she left pretty quickly after I got there. She is whole hog against Lori Lightfoot on Twitter. And I even asked her, are you saying this stuff on the air? And I don't know if she really does or not. But on Twitter anyway, I mean, there's no questioning what she's anti-Lightfoot.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can be that way and be a so-called objective newscaster. Not that anybody really is, but you're supposed to give the appearance of being objective.
Right.
So I mean, it's interesting how things are changing right now. But
Yeah,
yeah, you have to be really careful.
with what we've seen with MSNBC and Fox and how they present the news so slanted for a
Right.
certain political party and so forth. And now that has spread towards, almost every other news outlet. And you're right. Nobody is truly objective as a journalist. What happens is they try to be, but a lot of times, if you listen closely or if you watch carefully, you can kind of get hints as to the political leanings of, a Walter Cronkite, Dan Rather, or any of the people broadcasting news nowadays.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one thing I think, everybody raps lawyers, what I'm doing right now, but lawyers are open about it. I mean, we're advocates, we have clients, and we think the best way to get to the truth is you have adversaries going against each other, and maybe it's going to come out in a courtroom with a jury. Whereas these news organizations, I don't know if they're as much this way as they used to be, but they were so grandiose and thinking, oh, well, we've got the truth. I mean, Walter Cronkite would say, the chutzpah of him at the end when he would say, that's the way it is. Well, no, that's not the way it is, buddy. You doof.
Great point. I want to get back to, and I hope that you take this as a compliment, because all throughout the years that I've been watching you and watching other Chicago personalities and working with some, for instance, I worked with John Drummond, Bulldog Drummond at WBBM TV.
Forecastle of a Tramp Steamer. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And so I hold you and John in that same regard. Why hasn't a national television network built a vehicle for these super talented guys? Bulldog could have been doing, crime stories, and that could have been a syndicated show that I know there would have been a national audience for that. And you, with your comedic timing, your wit, the unique way that you look at sports in the world, there should have been a national vehicle for you. And
so now you're making me feel absolutely sick. And goodbye, Aldo. So no, it's interesting. I actually interviewed for a job at ESPN years ago. They had this guy, I forgot his name, John something or other. He was albino, and he was like a genius. He wore yellow socks and everything. And they found out about me. I was just basically starting at Channel 32. It must have been like 88 or 89. And they were going to start their 5 o'clock Sports Center. 5 o'clock in our time, 6 o'clock, I think, on the East Coast. Right. I wanted something different. So I gave them a tape. And when I went, they flew me out to Bristol. And I went to Bristol, and they were saying, we looked at all these tapes, and yours was like the only different one. They were all the same. I mean, after that interview, later you'd see guys like Craig Kilborn, Olbermann and Patrick and all that.
Interesting.
But they didn't bite. And I think I remember when I was with them, I was saying, if I see another, all these highlights to me are the same thing. I'd said I'd like to see just a ground ball in a second, just to change it up a little bit. I used to have a name for what I did on TV. I called it spornography, which is a portmanteau of sports and pornography, because basically it's just a bunch of money shots over and over again. This home run, the next home run, the next home run. I even, just to amuse myself, every time in the highlight package, I'd start out, the first home run was boom shakalaka. The second one was ding dong dilly of a dinger. And the third one was it could be, it might be, I think, therefore it is a home run, whatever. And the Cartesian view combined with Harry Carey. I also, at one point, Jam Productions wanted to do like some kind of weekly sports rap or whatever. And Oprah was trying to develop local talent for national.
Yeah.
And I never really took it that far, and I even told Jam Productions that I didn't like Oprah that much, which which is just stupid. So,
honesty can get you in trouble.
At one point in the early going, talk to me about something. It just never really happened. The closest I came to that was, I guess, Jonathan Brandmeier actually substituting for Joan Rivers. And me just seeing him, and he was actually very good.
Do you three still have sex? When was the last time you had? Besides, you don't have any relatives watching this.
And he overplayed his hand and didn't just try to do that and become a regular talk show host. He thought he had to do something really different, and the really different thing that he tried to do just blew up in his face. So I turned out to be, even though I wasn't a national celebrity, I turned out to be the most successful TV guy of all the Loop guys.
Interesting.
So I got that going for me, which is
and talk about you have done it all in Chicago broadcasting. I mean, people know you for your sports reporting and sports satire, but you've been a weatherman. I mean, a traffic man. I think you've done the weather too, right?
I never did the weather.
Okay.
I talked about doing the weather. You might be confusing me with Rich Coase, which a lot of people do. So
no,
I don't know why they do that either. But talk about political correctness. He actually did the weather for us on Channel 32 for a short time.
Oh.
And you know how they used to they make that red AMS, American Meteorological Seal, that they used to show with the weather.
Sure.
Well, Rich actually had a logo that said PMS on it. And I mean, and we let him do it on the air. Can you imagine somebody doing that right now?
Yeah.
The PMS logo. Did you work at Channel 2?
Aldo Gandia, Channel 2 News.
I did.
Did you know Johnny Morris at all?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I once did a couple of times I did this when I was at Channel 32. I mean, the stuff that I was able to do there.
Mm-hmm.
I did a character called Johnny More or Less. Okay.
I remember that.
I would imitate, and everything was with Johnny's transitions like, okay. And everything was, how about those apples? And how about those apples? And then, I build this up till we're showing the 7th race at Arlington, which, remember what they used to show, the 8th race at Arlington? So I go, oh, and this horse is coming around the bend, around the stretch. And how about those road apples? And it turned out that Johnny was actually quoted, and Norm Potash, God rest his soul,
God rest his
he
soul.
told me that they absolutely were going bananas when they saw that at Channel 2. But Johnny was once quoted in the Daily Herald. They asked him who his favorite local sportscasters were. And remember, there was never anybody bigger than Johnny as a 10 o'clock news sportscaster, because not only did he do that and was making $1 million a year, but he was also the Bears analyst, which they gave him so much cred. But Johnny was quoted once as saying that his favorite sportscaster on TV was me. And it was the biggest thrill in the world for me.
That is great.
And he said, I know we're not the same, we don't do the same, but I was his favorite, which is a big thrill. And another thing about Johnny was I got demoted from Channel 32, from the nighttime sportscaster to the morning guy. And I thought I was going to lose my job. It turned out I only lasted 12 more years there. But I didn't know at the time. And my producer was Tim Morris, Johnny's son.
Yeah.
And I got demoted around the time that Fox got football in 1994, because now all of a sudden they're taking sports seriously, and I'm not the serious guy, whatever. Okay, blah, blah. Even though I know all the numbers of the Bears players for the 60s, whatever. And so Tim says, hey, my dad's coming around. He has to talk to me about something tonight. I said, fine. He'll say hello to you. Well, it wasn't. The whole thing was just to bring Johnny in to give me a pep talk. And I will never forget, I'm standing face to face with good old number 47 and, 63 Bears. And the guy with the world record holder in the 50-yard dash, I think he still has it because they don't run the 50 anymore. And the biggest name, there never will be anybody bigger. I mean, Mark, bless him, Giangreco lasted a long time, but Johnny was the biggest. And he gives me a pep talk. It didn't even matter what he said. He was there. Johnny Morris was there, and it's one of the greatest memories I have in broadcasting is that Johnny Morris gave me a pep talk, and it turned out I was there for 12 more years. but it was great. It
is fascinating how people who are in the business and have achieved success can still be starstruck by others in the business. I read all the time about Hollywood stars who met Jack Nicholson or whoever and stuff, and they can't talk because they're so nervous and being, and I'm the same way. Every time I've run up against, somebody who is popular, I can't, nothing comes out of my mouth.
No, it's a big deal. Part of the reason why did I want to get into broadcasting? I had to get into Chicago. Because of Jack Brickhouse, who I got to meet, and yeah, sure. One time on the radio, Jonathan Brandmeier asked me to do Jack Brickhouse having sex, and I did that, and then Brickhouse still was on the line listening to it. Whee! How about a cigarette? Oh, boy.
I interviewed Jack once. We were doing a feature on something I forgot, and he came in. Oh, we were doing a feature on Lloyd Pettit, and so I had him come in to talk about Lloyd Pettit. And he sits down. We turn on the lights, and all of a sudden, it took him about 20 minutes to clear his throat.
Well, you're talking about Lloyd Pettit. Now, Lloyd Pettit was like my hero. As a matter of fact, I did the hockey highlights on TV. Never, ever in my own voice. It was always imitating Lloyd. Okay, and what the fun of it was, I did the imitation as if it was like they were actual clips instead of edited together. It was because when the clip would change, my voice would cut off in the middle of it, and but it was all doing the imitation of Lloyd Pettit. All right, face off back to Martin to Bobby Hull, a shot and a goal.
That is, you still do it perfectly, I'll tell you.
No, he's what it's all about. As a matter of fact, even Pat Foley, and what I love is that I don't think Pat said shot and a goal because he thought that he would be taking that from Lloyd. But occasionally you hear him say, we lose a puck and gain a face-off, and then he'd say, as Lloyd Pettit would say, or whatever.
Yeah.
So it was great.
I've always wondered why more announcers don't use a shot and a goal, because that is exactly what it is. It's much better than, it's much more than he shoots, he scores.
Right. And then everybody says he shoots, he scores, so why not say a shot and a goal? It sounds like it's such a natural to do that. I don't understand that.
I don't understand it. Well, listen, it has been a joy to talk with you.
We're done? There's still sunlight out.
We could go another hour easily, 2 hours, 3 hours. We should do this again.
It was very nice to have you.
Well, and I'm really, sincerely, I'm a huge, huge fan of your work, and just in awe. When I go back, and a lot of your stuff is, or some of your stuff, I should say, is on YouTube, and I go back and listen to it, and I laugh just as loud now as I did, when I first heard it years ago. And you're just multi-talented, and you're a smart guy, and you're a kind guy, and so I really, really appreciate you taking some time to talk with us, and I'd love to do this again in the near future.
How about tomorrow? I'm not doing anything.
No,
thank you so much, Aldo. It was great talking to you.